The Starting Five podcast has returned for Season 3. Here at Big Time Hoops, we're excited to welcome back the UK-born, but now proud Mainer Abby Davids and the North Deering dweller Taylor Mannix of the Portland Underground. They're back to serve the great basketball fans of Maine their weekly dose of local hoops discussion. And now, without further delay, here is Taylor Mannix and Abby Davids with the Starting Five podcast, brought to you by Big Time Hoops Maine and presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union.
Welcome into the Starting Five podcast, episode 6. We're really into the new year now. Taylor Mannix, Abby Davids joining me shortly. Quick introduction again, as we always do. Maine College Round Up coming at you, talking Cooper Flagg, St Anselm women's hoops, Maddy Werner winning an award with UNE, and much more on the men's side. University of Maine updates as well, including a Maine Celtics minute brought to you by Nosh Kitchen Bar. And then in the Starting Five, we'll have boys and girls headlines. We'll talk about the CMCC Games of the week. The Madomic Valley boys knocked off the Camden Hills boys, while on the girls' side, the Grey New Gloucester girls beat Greeley. And then at number 3, we'll talk about the York boys, who have been nothing but impressive in Class B South. We'll also give our Mr. Maine basketball rankings to this point in the season with the 4th topic. We'll also as well give our Miss Maine basketball next week, so stay tuned for that. And then can't miss games the rest of the way. Abby Davids and Taylor Mannix here for the next about hour and 20 minutes. Stay tuned here on episode 6 of the Starting Five podcast, presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. I'm Taylor Mannix. Here's a word from our sponsors, and then the Maine College Roundup. At Town & Country Federal Credit Union, we believe in hoops, except the ones you have to jump through to get a great deal. That's why Town & Country has a rewards checking account with a free debit card that has no monthly fees, no minimum balance, ATM refunds, and lots of financial freedom no matter what your age is. Stop paying ridiculous fees for your money. When it comes to making a winning shot, joining Town & Country Federal Credit Union is nothing but net. Make a fast break to Town & Country now online at TCFCU.com. That's TCFCU.com. Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Membership eligibility applies. Federally insured by NCUA. Clean Me Exteriors is a local family-owned pressure washing and exterior cleaning business providing services for residential and commercial property owners in southern Maine. Whether it's washing dirty siding, removing moss and ugly stains from your roof, or making sure your gutters are clean and working properly, Clean Me Exteriors is here to help. With over 200 plus 5-star reviews, Clean Me Exteriors is southern Maine's leader in all exterior cleaning needs, providing excellent service to homeowners, property and facility managers, retailers, contractors, and more. Are you ready to have the cleanest property on the block? Give us a call today at 207-209-3799 or visit our website www.cleanmeexteriors.com for a free inquiry form and to learn more. Welcome back into Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Taylor Mannix here to give you the Maine College Roundup, brought to you by Clean Me Exteriors. What a week for Cooper Flagg this week, folks. If you haven't seen the week this young man had, you're missing out. He was named the ACC Player of the Week for the 2nd time and Rookie of the Week for the 5th time. He is the first freshman to earn Player of the Week multiple times since Duke's Vernon Carey Jr., who won the award twice during the 2019 and 20 campaign. But he sweeps the weekly honors in the ACC to kick the week off. And really, if you look back at last week, we'll start there with the SMU game before we get into a little bit this week. To earn the ACC Player of the Week and Rookie of the Week, Cooper dominated in 2 victories, averaging 24.7 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 2.5 steals, 1.5 blocked shots for the Newport native. Shot 16 of 26 for 61% from the field, also 66% from three-point range, and a perfect 12 for 12 from the free throw line in an 89-62 road victory at SMU Saturday. January 4th, Flagg registered his 5th double-double of the season and 4th 20-point double-double with the 24 points, 11 rebounds, along with 3 assists, 2 block shots, and a steal. And then in an 88-65 home win over Virginia Tech on Tuesday, December 31st, before the new year, he collected 24 points, 3 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals, and a shot rejection in less than 30 minutes of action. So if you're wondering why he swept the awards, there you go. No more further questions, please. And then he followed up all of this after being announced this. This is why this kid is so amazing. The number 4 Duke Blue Devils then went and played Pitt, who were a pretty good team coming into this game. They whooped them 76-47 this past Tuesday at Cameron Indoor Stadium to improve to 5-0 in ACC play, by the way. But the Newport native Cooper Flagg finished with 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. This was his now 6th double-double of his career, and the Blue Devils have now won their last 9 games looking back to that loss to Kansas in Las Vegas. Flagg picked up 2 quick fouls in that game on Tuesday for those watching. Took him out of the game a little bit early, but in the opening minutes of the second half, he really settled back in, scoring 14 of his 19 total points after the intermission. The play of the night, though, came less than 4 minutes into the second half when Flagg threw down a powerful one-handed flush in transition over Guillermo Diaz-Graham, who is a 7-footer, by the way. Found himself in the wrong end of Flagg's highlight reel dunk, and I just don't understand why. I really don't get why he jumped at this point. I mean, he obviously didn't. I know he's 7 feet, but he didn't didn't know who Cooper Flagg was. He learned today. Cooper Flagg reminded him why he's the number 1 pick in the draft. You just don't jump with a kid like that. God bless Diaz-Graham's heart for trying, but now he's on a poster. For those who haven't seen the picture, I expect it to be on a lot of kids' walls or a lot of kids' lock screens on their phones for the next few years. What a dunk. Easily his best dunk and highlight dunk of his career at Duke so far. Probably a few more to come as the season goes on, but that was just amazing. And to be challenged the way he was at the rim, and we know this for us who have watched Cooper, if you challenge him at the rim, you better be expecting he's coming full force. I mean, that kid, when he made the steal that he did, had his eyes on the rim, really nothing stops him. I mean, he is a freight train, an out-of-control freight train. Should say in-control freight train because of how talented he is, but you get my drift. And to see him do that and have that dunk and really the big highlight reel of the night was unbelievable. And he's just been rolling. I mean, I said a few weeks ago, I didn't think that he could continue, or I should say, I didn't think we had seen the best of him yet. And I still don't know if we have, as he continues to ascend to one of the best players in college basketball right now in the Division I level. He is outstanding, and I am very excited that we have our own. Very happy for the Flagg family, too. I always see them on the TV. Ralph, Kelly. This family deserves it. And, of course, we're going to get Ace at UMaine next year. So we're going to have our own Flagg. And I can't wait to have Ace up here and be able to cheer him on under Coach Markwood as they try to win America East titles as UMaine playing Binghamton tonight. We'll get into them. But it's just really exciting to see. And Flagg continuing to impress everybody on the national stage. We saw it in gyms in Nokomis and Brewer and all through Class A North for quite some time here for at least his freshman year. And now we're all seeing, I think the world is starting to see now what we all got to see here in Maine for a season and what we knew could be, and it's just incredible. He again continues to just impress and continues to break down barriers for basketball players on the men's side from Maine, because again, we don't have Sydney Blodgett, right? Sydney Blodgett went pro, Mackenzie Holmes is now kind of starting to jump down that path, so we have 2 of them. We've never had one really on the men's side that's been this dominant. The fact we might have a number 1 pick coming from the state of Maine, I think is just amazing. So Cooper, keep doing your thing. Flagg family, so happy for you guys. Ace, can't wait to have you here. Very excited for the whole process that's coming up. Let's get into the next portion of the Maine College Round Up. Big shout out to the St Anselm women's hoops. They're now 8-4, playing in NE10 play, but they have Mainers playing some big roles. Freshman Addison Solikowski, and of course, Old Orchard Beach native Elise McNair, Gorham native Anna Nelson also getting some minutes, but Elise McNair, second most minutes by average played as a sophomore right now, coming out of Old Orchard Beach. We know how talented she is. 17 points back on November 26th against Franklin Pierce, and just a really, really good performance, 7 of 16. In her most recent game on January 2nd against Assumption, 32 minutes played. She was 4 for 6 for 9 points. But Elise McNair of Old Orchard Beach won a Class C state championship with those goals, getting it done. Second most minutes averaged for the St. Anselm's women's basketball team. You then look at Addison Solikowski. She's 4th on the team average in minutes out of Saco, and has had some big moments too. She had 3 games straight of double digits against Southern Connecticut State, Adelphi, and Yuleville. Each of those games she went for 14 or more points, and she's really been able to find her rhythm. Against American International earlier in the season on November 13th, she scored 23 points in 35 minutes on 10 of 18 shooting. So incredible to see the Thornton Academy product, Addison Solikowski, doing well. Anna Nelson also comes off the bench. She gets about 15 minutes a game, but sometimes has been asked to get more. Most recently against New Haven, she played 23 minutes, 2 of 4. She had 6 points in that game. So really great to see Mainers doing amazing things outside of the state in their small colleges. Other women doing big things. It starts with the UNE women, and Maddy Werner, University of New England first-year forward, has been picked as the Conference of New England's Women's Basketball Rookie of the Week for the period of January 5th, making it 2 straight releases with the distinction. Werner finished with 14 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal in UNE's 56-52 win over Western New England on Saturday. Bates Bobcats men's basketball team continued to impress. After dropping the first four contests to start their 2024-25 campaign, they've now gone to 6-5 on the season, with Sunday's 76-63 non-conference road win at Colby College, who's really talented this season. Bates has been victorious in 6 of their last 7 outings. Former Yarmouth standout Peter Sy-Hodges recorded his first career double-double, finishing with 18 points and a game-high 13 boards. Falmouth's Brady Coyne also contributed 12 points of his own. Bates now is gearing up for NESCAC play, which opens Friday, with a 7 p.m. home tilt versus Amherst, who's 9-4, entering the matchup. And speaking of NESCAC, the Bowdoin men played Harvard and almost pulled off a major upset recently. The Bowdoin men's college basketball team came within inches of knocking off their Division I foe, falling into the closing moments of a 71-65 loss. The former Falmouth standout Chris Simons had a big shot and played big minutes as well in that game, but the Polar Bears were facing their first Division I opponent since 1998-99 season and did fall short, but really cool and tells you a little bit of how much talent is on this Bowdoin Polar Bears team as they competed hard with the Harvard men's basketball team out of the Ivy League recently. The other headline out of the men's side, the Monks men's basketball team won the Middlebury Invitational. The St. Joseph's College Monks knocked off the Middlebury Panthers 93-82 in the championship round of the Middlebury College Invitational men's basketball tournament this past weekend. The Mainers had their handprints all over that win as well. Remy Jowani of Portland, Maine led the Monks with a game high of 26 points, team high of 8 rebounds and 4 steals. John Paul Frazier of York, Maine, who we'll talk about as well. York having a great season. Can't wait to touch on them later. But John Paul Frazier of York, Maine contributed 22 assists and 1 rebound. 20 points, 2 assists, 1 rebound. Wani Donato of Portland, Maine tallied 11 points, 7 rebounds, a steal, and 2 assists, while Silvano Ishmael of Portland added 8 points, 6 rebounds, 1 steal, and 6 assists. The Monks have improved now their record to 9-4 after a win Tuesday and play their next game in GNAC play. That's all they have left on Saturday. Also, shout out to Cash McClure, who continues to dominate at Bentley, and the University of Maine Farmington first-year standout Zach McLaughlin of Hamden, Maine, who was named the Maine Men's Basketball Coaches and Writers Association Rookie of the Week for his performances with the University of Maine at Farmington. Heading over to the University of Maine Black Bears program, the men dropped the conference opener against Bryant in Smithfield, Rhode Island this past Saturday, 81-55. AJ Lopez tied his career high with 24 points for the Black Bears in the loss. Maine are back in action tonight. They are hosting Binghamton at the Pit. They're underway right now as we're recording this. On the women's side, they've started 2-0 in America East play, first beating UMass Lowell last Thursday, 54-39, in what has become a very common result. Maine moved to 23-2 all-time against the Riverhawks, while also stretching their win streak over UMass Lowell to 7. The Black Bears also started conference play 1-0 for the 8th consecutive year. They followed up Thursday's triumph with their home opener versus the Bryant Bulldogs when their team secured their second conference win of the week. Paula Gallego and Caroline Bourneman contributed for 43 points. As a team, they shot 62% in the 87-64 victory over the Bulldogs. Gallego led all scorers with a career-high 23 points on a career-best 5 3-pointers to go along with 5 assists and 5 rebounds. Caroline Bourneman posted 20 points and 9 rebounds, and according to GoBlackBears.com, has moved into 27th on Maine's all-time scoring list and 18th on Maine's all-time rebounding list after this weekend's performance. So Caroline Bourneman continues to write her name in the Maine history books, and tonight they are on the road in Binghamton at Vestal, New York. They're actually playing on the road in New York the next 2 games, so Amy Vachon and company are busy before they head back here to play at the University of Maine. Now here is our Maine Celtics Minute, brought to you by Nosh Kitchen Bar. Maine went 1-2 in their homestand last weekend, playing 3 games in 4 days of the world-famous Portland Expo. J.D. Davison dominated with 40 points in the team's most recent game on Sunday against the Birmingham Squadron at home. Maine would go on to win 103-90 on a day that had a special feel. They were wearing their Maine Celtics, their Maine Red Claws gear, as the Maine Celtics paid homage to their history by rebranding the Maine Celtics, and it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. I'm wearing my Maine Celtics gear, my Maine Red Claws gear right now. I got so much of it. It was amazing. And technically, the Claws are undefeated this G League season, going 1-0, not playing again. So Maine Red Claws undefeated. Gotta love it. I have a ton of gear, and I'm super stoked about it. Also got a Scott Morrison bobblehead for those who are into like bobbleheads and old coaches. Scott Morrison, a former Maine Red Claws coach, got the bobblehead, $1. Unbelievable deal. Gotta love it. Maine, though, leaned on the Boston-affiliated players to get that win Sunday. Davison, as mentioned, led the charge with 40 and added 6 rebounds, 6 steals, and 3 assists as the Red Claws starters accounted for 98 of their 103 points. Outside J.D. Davison for the 6th consecutive game, and that time Baylor Shireman scored 20 points or more. The Boston assignee buried 5 of 11 three-pointers and finished with 21 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 assists. Drew Peterson returned to Maine's lineup for the first time this regular season. He provided 17 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. Fellow two-way player Anton Watson was also in double figures. He was drafted in the second round by the Boston Celtics this year. He had 14 points. And look, Tuesday's game, they were on the road at the Indiana Mad Ants at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indiana, and it didn't really go great. Fell at the last minute. They had a chance to steal a win, and it slipped out of their grasp. 118-115 was the final Tuesday afternoon, and Maine outscored Indiana 42-28 in the third quarter after they had to erase a 10-point, and then, of course, the Mad Ants erased that 10-point deficit to stun Maine in the final minute. They're 4-3 now, and we'll see how things go as they return to the Portland Expo this weekend, Friday night and Saturday night, against Raptors 905. The affiliate of the Toronto Raptors. That's going to wrap up our Maine College Roundup and our Maine Celtics Minute. Word from our sponsors, and then Abby Davids and I will have the Starting 5 podcast. So stay tuned here on the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. The shots you never make are the ones you never take. Give Town & Country Federal Credit Union a shot and you'll be part of a winning team. Town & Country has an awesome mobile app so you can do what you want when you want it. No monthly fees, no minimum balance, a free debit card, and you can get paid for living life. Don't double dribble the opportunity to bank local and bank better, except not at a bank, at Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Join Maine's best credit union at TCFCU.com. That's TCFCU.com. Membership eligibility applies. Federally insured by NCUA. Welcome back into the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast, episode 6. Abby Davids is here. I am here. Taylor Mannix, that is. And we are kicking it off, man. How's things going this week?
Things are great, man. Real good. Back in the studio, ready to talk hoops, man. This is a fun time of the year.
Yeah, it is, especially with things heating up.
Heating up?
Yeah.
It's cold outside, man.
I know, right? Yeah. Tough choice of words there. It has been. It's colder than it's been. The wind especially been whipping. A couple of my buddies who scallop out in the bays of Casco Bay have been texting me, and today it was blowing about 35, he said, as they were out there scalloping. Scalloping's in bay, so it's not like you're out in like the you're not too far out, but it gets cold, man, and it's not very fun shucking on the back of a boat when it's about 16 degrees and probably with a wind chill like 5.
Yeah, those guys, do they wear gloves? Or
yeah, we wear. Yeah, so I used to go federal scalloping down out of Gloucester, Massachusetts. So we'd go we used to go way out. Yeah, we used to have some fun down there. We did the federal season's open for a month, so we'd go down there. My captain and I would basically live on the boat, drink a lot of beer, and fish.
That sounds like a good time to me.
It wasn't that fun, but you made about $500 a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good money, and you'd have fun. I got to spend some time in Gloucester, so it was definitely worth the experience. But yeah, I don't miss it days like today when I'm sitting my big fat butt in a studio talking sports all day on the Big Jab,
I'm sure.
And my buddy's sending me pictures like that at 7 a.m. I'm like, yeah, I think I chose the right career path.
I'm good.
Well, let's get to it, man. A lot to cover here in such a short time. Obviously, it's a Thursday night when we're recording this, watching some Notre Dame Penn State football, too. College football playoff, man. Awesome to see that.
It really is. It's about time.
About time. But the big headlines from the boys' side this week, I mean, there's no other way to lead it. It was the South Portland boys handing the Wyndham Eagles their first loss of this regular season, and their first loss in 14 straight games, including their first state title during that 14-game win streak. They're now, South Portland, that is 8-2. It was a meeting of really the past 2 state championships. South Portland, 2022 and 2023, winning the state title. Wyndham last year. So the 2 best programs in the state over the past 3 years arguably meet. 55-54 is the final. And a lot of that, my friend, is thanks to Manny Hidalgo, who with 4 seconds left hit the big shot. And this kid, we talk about it from back at the holiday tournament last year, him
Everybody
knocking down the shot,
one.
beating the New York team, and now he does it again, but this time to knock off the defending Class AA state champions, and again snap a 14-game winning streak for Wyndham. And now South Portland is the talk of the town.
Yeah, 100%. And that was signature Hidalgo, getting in the lane, beautiful floater. to seal the deal. And we talked about this South Portland team, how throughout the season they're going to creep and get better and get better. And by the time February hits, they're going to be ready to rock. And I think that was just a taste of what might come. And I think a lot of people are, it's including you and I, Wyndham. And I think South Portland are like, hey, listen, there's some other guys here too.
Yeah, right. And I mean, even the game against Scarborough they played before this one, Manny goes for 31 points.
Yeah.
And this one he finishes with a leading all scorers on Tuesday, 25 points. He was in foul trouble, had to sit a few times, but it didn't matter. He was able to step up and hit it in the big shot. I'm with you. We were talking about this team last time we were on here. I got to see South Portland up close and personal, come back against Deering twice, 2 double-digit deficits. And I remember watching them, and Gabe Jackson got hot that game. Manny did his thing, but it was mostly Gabe that game. But I started to realize how good this team's potential, wow, the potential for how good South Portland can be is there. If Gabe's playing well, if Tom Malogie's doing his thing, Darius Johnson's back in the fold, if you now have a really deep South Portland team who's starting to click at the right time and beating Wyndham. That's the signature win they were looking for to really propel themselves now into that conversation with Chevrolet and Wyndham of the true contenders here in AA. It's not just the North that we should be talking about as being the state title favorites anymore after what we saw this week from Sopo.
I couldn't agree more. And and you know what? With Coach Millington at the helm, they're always going to be right there, to be honest. And they have firepower. That team has firepower. They have length. They have great athletes. They've got defensive weapons, Tom Malogi. They've got offensive firepower. We talked about Gabe Jackson, Darius Johnson, Tristan. These guys are good. They're really, really good. And I just want to say one thing real quick. I was told last week that we've been butchering some names. So we just got to say 3 names from Wyndham. Crady Dickinson.
Yeah, Dickinson.
Yeah. Connor Janvrin.
What is it? Janvrin?
Janvrin. Yeah, and Colin Janvrin. There you go.
So the
Boom.
Janvrin.
Talk to us.
Gotcha.
We got the names right now, man. Talk to us.
Right. I didn't know. For some reason, I kept saying different. But yeah, Janvrin. And he had 11 off the bench in that game. Dixon went for Dickinson. See, but this is what's funny because I'm reading it right now on a roster, and it's spelled Dixon. So if people want to get on us, y'all better keep it consistent and get after everybody else who actually spells it on their roster that I'm reading the wrong way. He did have 18 to 22 points in the first half, but he's been fantastic throughout this season. Crady, that is. And again, what is it? It's Dickinson,
I
right?
believe Dickinson.
I'm laughing.
Just committed.
I'm reading Dick. This is hysterical.
Just committed to CMCC. So big time. Congratulations, Crady.
And he's going to be that's going to be awesome. That CMCC team right now is ranked in the USCAA Division 2 polls right now in the top 10. So he's joining a really good program. He had 22 points in that loss, but that's the thing.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Pause the news. It's Dixon. It's not Dickinson. We be getting it wrong.
Yeah, okay. It's Dixon. That's what I was going to say. I'm reading it as Dixon.
Yeah,
so
we got it. We got it. I just read my text from Coach G. We're good. I got it right.
Good.
Dixon.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say I was reading it like that, but and Janvrin, which again, he had 11 off the bench. And look, I think it's interesting too because one of the big storylines I think from that game was the fact that the South Portland defense that I think is starting to turn into one of the most formidable defenses in the state showed up. You look at the score line, and obviously Dixon has his game, 22 points. You look at Janvrin, he has his 11. Tyree James and A.J. Moody combined for 11 points. James had 5, Moody had 6.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me was also a big key to South Portland winning, but that's why their defense is so good. The fact they could slow down that tandem, which is easily one of the best duos in the state, speaks a lot to how much South Portland's come defensively. And you mentioned Millington. I think he's up for Coach of the Year right now.
Yeah,
if
100%.
South Portland ends up, if they, to me, I think they had the expectation they'd be there, but to knock off Wyndham and be in this position, unbelievable job.
100%. Keep it rolling.
Speaking of keeping it rolling, Scarborough was able to get a big win to improve in 5-4 this past Tuesday. Carter Blanche dropped 29 points, making 5 of 6 free throws down the stretch to help the Red Storm beat the Falmouth Navigators, who were 7-1 entering this game. Davis Mann, 18 points, did his thing, but Scarborough getting a huge win after, again, some results that I think showed a little inconsistency from them, but to go get a big win like that against Falmouth, Fitzgerald ends up with 13 points as well. Leighton Garapi, 10 points himself, and I just look at that team, and Scarborough, to me, like, I can't figure them out because they seem like, and just like last year in the playoffs, they had that really great game where they hit a bunch of threes and then played Gorham, and it wasn't the same result. You wonder if that's going to be the same story this year for them because, I mean, they play a game like this against a really tough Falmouth team. You win 64-59. They outscored Falmouth, by the way, 22-17 in the fourth quarter. Really impressive from Scarborough.
Yeah, and it just shows on any given night, if you show up with the right kind of juice, things can happen. And Carter, Big Bucket Blanche, like he can do this. Like he can be that guy, and he's a multi-sport athlete, phenomenal soccer player. And I know it takes him a little bit while getting off that soccer season and you know how it is. The multi-sport guys, it takes him a little while to get going. But once he gets going and, you add in Fitzgerald to the things, like they have some firepower. If they can guard and really get after it, I'm telling you, they can do some stuff, man.
Yeah, and especially when Carter Blanche is hitting 5 3-pointers.
I know. Oh, no, but he can really fill it up.
Yeah, no,
Carter Blanche can really fill it up.
He is. He's a really talented player. And kind of keeping it on Class A, because with Falmouth getting that loss, it brings up more so of how Noble is starting to really they've already, to me, kind of solidified themselves now as that number one team there in that group. But they were really pushed by Grey New Gloucester this past week on last Saturday it was, and they only won 57-54. Jameer Rose, 24 points to help them recover from an early double-digit deficit to beat Grey New Gloucester, who fell to 2-8. But you mentioned one of the names that we talked about off air, Johnny Patnode, who is one of the best seniors in the state, really showed out in that game against Noble and almost willed his team to an upset.
He really did. He had 17 points in the first quarter. Like, he went off. I talked to Coach Morgan, and I talked to his old teammate, Nate Hebert, and they said that he had the quarter of his life. He was hitting fall-away step backs. He was hitting stuff going out of bounds. Like, he just was unguardable for a quarter. But I tell you, this is why Coach Morgan is one of the best in the state. He adjusts. You know what I mean? He adjusts. He makes phenomenal in-game adjustments. And that, you add, like, we talk about duos, right? And I don't know if you've ever, like, thought about the coaching duo you think about when you think about, sports is Belichick and Brady. You know what I mean? That's a coaching duo. Or, there's been a couple more, but that's probably the most famous one. I'm telling you, there is a duo in Maine that we don't talk about, and it is John Morgan and Jameer Rose. The way that Jameer allows John to push him and coach him and the adjustments that John makes, that is they got a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, they do, and it's working because they're undefeated. So, and get a big win there against Grey. And you mentioned it. Patnode finishes with 23 points, 5 3-pointers as well for himself. Colby Mitchell had 19 with 3 3-pointers himself. 10 3-pointers hit by Grey New Gloucester in that game. Only 5 for Noble. So 3-pointers keeping him in that thing. But ultimately they were too much. Bryce Guittard finished with 10 points as well. Him and Jameer, the 2,000-point scorers for this Knights team, and combining for 34 points in that victory that they were able to eke out against Grey New Gloucester. A couple other teams that we wanted to highlight today as well. This past Tuesday, the Oceanside boys were able to knock off Brunswick by 1 point. Connor Kingsbury scored 17, including 5 3-pointers as the Mariners were able to knock off the Brunswick Dragons in overtime. Incredible game. Brandon Shaw made 6 3-pointers as well to lead Brunswick with 20 points, but they fell behind 31-18 in the first half and then went on a 21-7 run, Abby, in the third quarter for a 39-38 lead before eventually Oceanside was able to get the advantage 60-59. But an incredible game there played Tuesday night. On the Oceanside side of things, Connor Kingsbury again 17 points, Zach Woodman 11, Reed Robenshaw 14 points, and Zeb Foster finishing with 11. Brandon Shaw again 20 points. Trevor Garish finished with 15 points, while Finn White had 7 for Brunswick in that one. And two teams, again, Oceanside 5-4, Brunswick 4-5. But
Yep.
what an absolute game for both those teams, and Oceanside to be able to pull that thing out.
Oh, 100%. And that's just that matchup is so evenly matched as their records show. That was always going to be a battle. That was always going to be a great game, and just some outstanding players on both sides.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Another shout-out as well in the Class C South ranks. I was able to call a game with the great Ethan Snow from WHOU.live, and Old Orchard Beach knocked off Trape Academy 60-50 in Old Orchard Beach down there. And the reason it's such a big win, Abby, is because for this Old Orchard Beach team, it was a 7-game losing streak they were able to snap. They are now 2-7 after winning the first game of the season against Shakopee, getting a huge win. And Brady Plant, Dean Plant's son, the head coach's son, 31 points. Unbelievable performance. He was hitting deep threes. He was attacking into the lane when the defense was giving him an opening to get to the rim. He wasn't settling, but he was hitting all the opening shots they could get him. And Riley Preventure, who, by the way, is going up for a Fitzpatrick Trophy Award in football, he had 15 rebounds. It was unbelievable.
He's a phenomenal athlete. Riley Preventure is a phenomenal athlete and a very good basketball player.
Right. Well, he has 9 points. He did turn the ball over, though. It was funny talking to Coach Plant after the game. Coach Plant was like, if Riley could have just held on to the ball, blah, blah, blah. I was laughing. I go, Coach, I didn't want to say too much of the broadcast, but I felt the same way. And he did. He played more like himself in the second half, and they got revenge against a pretty good Trape Academy team who's now 4-6. Trape beat them earlier in the season at Trape. Really good performance by Darian Rooney. Under 6 feet. This kid is a dog. Hit some big threes, not afraid to step out and guard people. He was like maybe 5'7", 5'8", right? Not a big guy, but he was hitting big shots. Finished with 11 points. So Darian Rooney of Trape Academy got a big one. And then Colin O'Loughlin, really solid big man, not afraid to step out and take a three, where he actually hit one of them early in the game when they let him have it. But there was a time when Old Orchard Beach went to a 2-3 zone. Riley Preventure was in foul trouble, had about 3 fouls. O'Loughlin was on him. There was recognition from Trape on that. They went back to him twice, and twice O'Loughlin was able to make him pay. I was really impressed with this kid. And again, Colin O'Loughlin, 11 points is what he finished with, but easily to me in that Class C South region, someone who we probably haven't talked about enough, but I would be weary of teams that have to play him. If Trape gets in to the Class C South tournament, a kid like that, if you don't have a matchup that can defend him, he will cause problems, and you see why they're 4-6 and have won a few games this season, because they have some three-point ability. They have guys who can hit it. Another one who I thought was really good, who could step out and hit the three, was Jack Downs, who finished with 2 3-pointers and 8. He wasn't afraid to pull the trigger, so I got introduced to this Trape team a little bit, and I was impressed, and I'm excited to see if they're able to get to the Class C tournament. I know Old Orchard Beach has a little bit more of a mountain to climb at 2-7, but Trape at 4-6 are right in the thick for a final spot in that Class C South playoff, and I'd be interested to see what they can do at tournament time. Like I said, if they get hot from three, Laughlin's able to get rebounds like he was and play tough down low, they're going to be a matchup problem for some teams. If they can, again, play like they did for a full game against Old Orchard Beach, because, again, it was only in spurts I saw this, but you should have seen the off-ball movement, too. Old Orchard Beach had to go to a zone, it felt like, because the man-to-man, they were cutting off ball when guys were falling asleep. They were making the right passes. I commend Trape. Very clearly well-coached team, so a lot of love for those guys after seeing them one time this year down in Old Orchard Beach.
And there's something to say about just playing basketball the right way. Maybe you don't have the 6'5", Gabe Lash, you know what I mean, in the post. Maybe you don't have the lightning-quick, crazy ball handle skills, Jameer Rose or Manny Hidalgo. But if you play the right basketball, you can be in games and you can win games. And one of the things as you go to tournament, if you're going to be a 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th seed, if you're a coach, you're thinking, I just need some dogs. Like, we can win. Like you said it best. I just need some dogs.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed watching them play. Again, the record might not reflect it, but they play, in my opinion, a good brand of basketball.
I like that, man.
So I see why they have the 4 wins they do, and they almost earned one. They almost earned a 5th, which, by the way, they were only a team that won 4 games total last year.
Yep.
So already at
They're
that,
already there.
yeah, awesome, awesome to see. Let's go to the girls' side though a little bit as well. A lot of big time things happening on the girls' side, especially with the Edward Little Red Eddies. I know you have a few of their stats, but they've been off and running now, and as of Tuesday, I know they're playing tonight, I believe, but 7-3 on the season now. and a lot to like, Abby, about this EL team who knocked off Cheverus, and Cheverus has kind of spiraled a little bit, and really things have become much more interesting in that AA North region on the girls' side, with Cheverus losing 3, EL, of course, being one of the teams that beat them. Yeah,
and it's almost like everybody took a page out of Scarborough's playbook. You know, how did you shut down Kylie Lamson is what I'm hearing. You know what I mean? How did you take Kylie out of the game? And that is kudos to Kylie Lamson, who is just a phenomenal basketball player and gets it done. But I think that is the scout against Cheverus this year. Yeah. And I think if Kylie can get going, Cheverus have a very good chance of winning games. And I think if you can find ways to, take the ball out of our hands a little bit, I think you got a chance. And I think that's why they lose 3 on the bounce, because they always say the eye in the sky don't lie. And if you can go watch film and you can take some things away and you can steal some things that Scarborough did to frustrate Cheverus, then you got a chance to win. And EL goes and beats them in a big game. And that's not just a big game for Maine basketball. That was a huge game for this EL team, who they just needed something to say, now we believe. You know what I mean? Now we believe that we can go win a gold ball, because they've had in my opinion, they've had the talent for a few years. They've had the girls, they've had the athletes. Christina Blaze was there, now Frank Perry was there. They've had the coaching. You know what I mean? But now the last thing you got to check off is, do you actually believe that you can win or not? And maybe this game shows them that, that maybe this is their I believe game,
Yeah, you hope. And again, they followed a few of those up. You look at what Tuesdays, they beat Bonnie Eagles Saturday. Then Tuesday, this past weekend, they beat Thornton Academy 54-40. And in that game, Rachel Penny, 12 points. Layla, 18 points as well. So a couple of players coming in double digits. But it's the fact, too, Elizabeth Galway has 8 points, right? Violet Vincent has 8 points. So they're getting contributions. Hope Fontaine, 7 points. They're getting contributions from more than just Rachel and Layla. And it's starting to show. Again, 7-3 after Tuesday. And that region has really gotten, it's so competitive now. It's really opened up.
Extremely competitive. And it's anybody's. It's wide open. Absolutely. Yeah. It's I thought last year it was wide open. And then, kind of Cheverus did what they did. And as we got to this point of the year, it was like, yeah, this ain't wide open.
Right. It was very obvious, like Cheverus was the team to beat and probably wasn't going to be beaten.
No, exactly. Especially with the emergence of how well Ruth Bowles fit into their system. And, Maddie Fitzpatrick is Maddie Fitzpatrick. Jeez, like she's unreal.
Well, and now looking at that region, Cheverus this is according to the MPA's seal points. They obviously don't get updated that quickly, but Cheverus is 6-3, Bangor 7-3, Edward Little 7-3, and Oxford Hills, who we'll get into in a second, 8-2.
Yep.
Outside of Lewiston and Portland, Wyndham's even 5. It's anyone's game 1 through 5.
Yeah.
You have to feel anybody can beat anybody. Even Bangor and Wyndham are in this mix, and we'll get into them in a little bit too, especially Wyndham. But, it does start to feel like Class AA North on the girls' side is no longer just Cheverus's to run through. On the other side, we've been talking about Wyndham so much. Like, this last 2 weeks have really been
Things
revealing.
Have been shaken up.
Yes.
Things have been shaken up big time.
Especially in the AA region.
Yeah, it used to be, the AA North used to be owned by Cheverus and Oxford Hills.
Yeah. We're starting to see a couple other teams enter the chat.
EL are like, hey, we're here too.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I will say, though, Oxford Hills, including them who improved to 8-2, they beat Lewiston on Tuesday 51-41. Ella Pelletier, 37 points, 14 of her points in the second quarter when they outscored Lewiston 22-9 and turned an 11-9 lead into a 33-18 advantage. Maddie Herrick had 7 points as well for the Vikings, who were without their second leading scorer, Gabby Tibbetts, during the game. So Ella Pelletier picked up the slack, 37 points, 12 made field goals for Ella Pelletier against this Lewiston team. And, oh, by the way, Oxford Hills only needed 3 3-pointers, so getting it done in the paint and inside the arc. Ella Bowden, 16 points, And Bailey Tardif-Mockler had 18 points as well for Lewis, the new fell to 1-9. But Oxford Hill is just kind of solidifying themselves. Even without Gabby Tibbetts, we see that Ella Pelletier, there's a reason why she's one of the Miss Maine basketball favorites.
Definitely, and 37 in that game is because they just don't have anybody. That Lewiston team doesn't have anybody over 5'7". You know, and Ella's almost 6 foot, and her stature just speaks for itself. And that's a game where I'm like, Ella's gonna eat. Before the game, I was texting the assistant coach Maines, and I'm like, Ella's about to eat this game. Like, she's gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and look, the other team that we mentioned as well, who's now 5-4, the Windham Eagles, 35-33. They knocked off South Portland, who's
big win.
Which is why, again, it's not just EL, it's not just Oxford Hills. It's you're now talking about South Portland in Scarborough, and South Portland falling victim to Windham. 3 players in double figures for Windham: Marley Gervais, Stella Gervais, and Mackenzie Deluski, thank you. I know, I'm dyslexic sometimes. Deluski at 13, but the Jarvis sisters with 20 points combined for that 35 points. And again, they just held South Portland in check, right? Destiny Peters 10, Annie Whitmore had 12, and really no one else was able to find the score sheet other than 4 players for South Portland, looks like, on that. So tough game, but Windham again showing you why this Class AA North region is so
wide
deep.
open. And Bangor's impressive too up there, and I'm telling you, it is wide open. But then we talk about shaking things up, right? Windham go and have a big win against who were number 1, South Portland, right? Then they turn around and they play a Marshwood team in the class below, and Marshwood beats them by almost 30 points. I got that text today. I don't have the official final score, but Isabel Tice had 17 points. Natalie Lathrop, 12 points. Natalie Lathrop has really impressed me this season. She is being consistent every single game. Lauren Walker, 3 points. Emily Clark, 10 points. Sarah Terrio, 15 points. Renee St. Pierre, 5 points. This Marshwood team they can get anybody on any night. This team is going to be fun to watch come playoff time.
Yeah, and you mentioned that was tonight's game, which put Windham at the 500, Marshwood at 9-1. Marshwood outscored Windham 20-5 in the first quarter.
Wow.
So really just, I mean, you mentioned it, just getting out ahead of them. And now Marshwood in that Class A. I know Grey New Gloucester, we'll talk about them for their win over Greeley in the CMCC Game of the Week. We know about Mount Ararat as well, and Brunswick, who we'll get into in a second. But Grey New Gloucester and Marshwood and Mount Ararat solidifying themselves a little bit at the top. And the reason we say those 3 is because those pesky Class B South Oceanside girls, well, they came back and they came a-knocking, and they knocked off the Brunswick defending Class A champions in a big-time matchup when they met here recently as yesterday. And, of course, Abriana Hoos, unbelievable performance, 7 for 11 on her way to 20 points in addition to 8 assists as well. The win has raised their record again to 6-2. They've dominated over that stretch, winning by an average of 24.6 points. The Oceanside girls in this now 5-game win streak.
Shout out Matt Breen. His teams just they don't just win games. They beat people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't just win games. They beat people, and they his scoring efficiency rating. I would love to get the numbers on that over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
They got to be through the roof.
Well, and the assist numbers. Yesterday when they played, there was 22 assists.
Yeah.
Second most on the season. The second most, it looks like, since they've been keeping stats. Last year, on January 2nd, they had 24 assists. So, I mean, you're talking about a record almost assist for them because they keep all their stuff in max preps. Thank you guys for doing that so we can get these stats very easy. But what a performance here by Oceanside. And now I think when you're talking about Brunswick, they've taken a step back in that Class A South region, whereas in Class B, Oceanside have now taken a huge step up to be considered now despite losing Bailey, they are still one of the teams to beat, and they still have to be considered a favorite 100%. Along with those Biddeford's.
100%.
Unbelievable win for them. Seriously, really, really big win for Oceanside, and you do have to feel like things are looking up for them here because, again, I mean, if there's any team, as you mentioned, that's going to be better as the season goes on, it's a Breen and Skarka run team.
100%.
Let's talk about quickly the CMCC Games of the week. The Madomic Valley boys knocked off Camden Hills in the first of the CMCC Games of the week. And then in the other one, it was the Greeley girls the Grey New Gloucester girls who knocked off the Greeley girls. We'll start with Grey New Gloucester because it'll lead us into York on the next one, the next topic. But Grey New Gloucester girls, Izzy Morelli had an incredible game, 15 points for the Patriots to get to 10-2, rode really their defense the whole way. They gave up 3 points, Grey New Gloucester only gave up 3 points in the second, 5 points in the third, and 3 points in the fourth after giving up 7 in the first quarter for a total of 18 points given up to the Greeley Rangers. Again, Izzy Morelli had 15, Abby Steele had 8, Ella Kenny had 8 as well, and Lainey Ferrara had 6 to round out some of the scoring for Grey New Gloucester.
That's the big four right there.
Just a dominant performance, and they once again show you why they are the cream of the crop in Class A.
100%. And for me, I don't know. If they are getting going and if they are trusting each other, I don't know who takes them down. I really don't know who takes them down. I would love to see a matchup between them and Lawrence.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we might be heading for a crash course at that eventually. On the other side, in the boys CMCC Game of the week, the Madomic Valley boys team dominated Camden Hills 62-50 in front of a pretty big crowd up in Rockport on January 4th. The game was not as close as the final score indicated, though. The Panthers at one point had a 21-point lead midway through the third quarter. Leaned on their bench depth, too, to coast to that easy win. Gabe Lash, obviously one of the leaders in that game, 15 points, 11 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 assists, and a blocked shot for Madomic Valley. Rocco DePazzi also finished with 10 points, 5 rebounds, a steal, and a block. Camden Hills dropped to 3-5 at the loss. Ames was the leader with 19 points, including a big-time dunk for the Windjammers. But Madomic Valley asserts themselves up at the top, and this kind of brings us into our third topic, Abby, which is it feels like we're on a crash course now at this point between the Madomic Valley Panthers and the York Wildcats. They will not meet in the regular season, but it feels like these are the two teams to beat now in Class B, and it's not really even close.
No, it's definitely not close, and shame on you and shame on me for not talking about these York Wildcats enough. Once we read off these stats, which I'm going to give you the honors of doing, everyone's going to know why we should have been talking about these guys the whole time.
Yeah, if you look at their average points per game, and just to put it into perspective, scoring offenses in the KVAC, thanks to TJ Maines who gave us these stats, Madomic Valley leads all of KVAC teams. That's Oceanside, that's Camden, Camden has the most, but Camden, Madomic, Coney, all averaging 66 points or less. The York boys are averaging 72 points a game, so they would be averaging more points than any team in the KVAC right now if they're in it. Reese McDonald, 27 points per game. Lucas Bouchard is 11.8 points per game, and Jack Joyce 10 points per game. All of these stats as well were coming into this week when they were 9-0. They have advanced there to 10-0. Lucas Bouchard also averages 10 rebounds, so 11-10. Lucas Ketchum averages 8 rebounds. Reese McDonald grabs 6 himself to go with 27 points per game. And Ryan Cummins as well, 8 points per game with 4 assists and 6 rebounds per game. So this team is so well-rounded.
Yes.
And you have to feel offensively it's going to be tough to stop. The one thing that we have to note, though, average points per game, 51 for York. Madomic Valley through 6 games earlier this season, 35.7.
Average points allowed.
Yes. Yeah. So average points allowed. So that, to me, is going to be a really interesting matchup now. A team in Madomic who looks like they play some really good defense against a York team who's a high-powered offensive show. I mean, Reese McDonald is unbelievable.
Reading between the lines, I would say that the discrepancy in the 72 points scored a game with the 51 points allowed a game, everything I'm reading in between the lines there says that they play fast. They take a lot of shots, and the other teams have to keep up. And I don't, Madomic, I watched the highlights that Big Time Hoops put out this morning or yesterday. they play fast. They can play in transition. They have phenomenal athletes. So if we got a crash course for these two teams playing against each other, you better make sure that everybody's there, because that's going to be that could be the game of the year right there.
Yeah, Gabe Lash against 14 points a game, one of the leading scorers on that team, and Rocco DiPazzi, 13 points a game getter as well. So they have some really talented players who can go get buckets, and it is going to come down to defense when they play at a neutral site, because, again, there's no home or away for these teams. We won't see them till the playoffs, and it's going to be a one-off. So
you better be there, man.
I wish we could get more than one game between these two. It'd be nice to see them go head-to-head before a playoff matchup, but it looks like it's going to come down, and it's going to be win or go home in a big-time game, and that's going to also test, I think, both these teams' mental fortitude.
Yes.
I mean, Madomic Valley, Gabe Lash have played in some big games. So has this York team. It's going to be really interesting to see if they eventually meet in that playoff game, how it plays out, especially right now, looking like Madomic might have the defensive edge.
Yeah,
might.
100%. And I will tell you something real quick. We'll go back to the York Wildcats. Reese McDonald's is a smooth criminal. He is nice. He mid-range, fall-aways, 1 foot, 2 foot. He's got dirt game. He's got Larry Bird, shooting like Larry Bird from the three-point line. He finishes around the rim. He's smooth, man. Like, if you're in Southern Maine and you don't have anything to do on a Friday night, go watch these York Wildcats play.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Tuesday night they extended their 10-0 win streak again. Their win streak to 10. They went 10-0, beating Lake Region 63-54. Reese McDonald had 21 points to help keep that perfect record intact. Ryan Cummins finished with 13. Lucas Bouchard 10 to reach double figures. Lake Region was led by Brock Gibbons and Jacoby Bardsley. Brock Gibbons had 16. Bardsley had 10. But you mentioned it, 10-0 now for this York Wildcats team, and they're rolling right along after Tuesday, and you have to feel like there's not many teams that are going to be able to stop them along the way. When you look at their schedule, a lot of teams they've played already, so we'll see how it goes. Don't want to jinx them, but boy, I'm really excited that for this playoff to start and to see, what York and Madomic Valley do. I don't want to count out Spruce Mountain either, but boy, I mean, after they lost to Madomic Valley the way they did, the way Madomic Valley held Jace Bessie in check, that's the question too. With a talent like Jace Bessie, if they were able to hold him to 4 points, can they do that with Reese McDonald?
Exactly.
Big question remains. Let's get into our number 4 topic. I think a lot of people are excited about this one, man. Mr. Maine basketball rankings. Abby and I didn't tell each other what our rankings are, so I'll give you mine from 1 through 5 right here. These are, again, Mr. Maine basketball rankings to this point. For both Abby and I, personal opinion, you guys can crap on us all you want after if you don't agree with us, but this is where I'm at this point. Jameer Rose is number 1 for me. Really hard to take him off the top right now. I have Gabe Lash at number 2. I have Leo McNabb at number 3. I have Manny Hidalgo now at number 4. And I have Jace Bessie at number 5.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that list. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go 5-1.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. I'm going to go Leo McNabb at 5. I'm going to go Davis Mann at 4. I'm going to go Gabe Lash at 3. And I think you convinced me. I got Ding Maywen at 2, which means, obviously, my guy Jameer Rose is number 1. And to talk about Jameer real quick, points per game, he's leading. And this is, remember, Big Time Hoops, they were predicting Mr. Maine at the beginning and talking about each category, who's going to win the scoring, defensive, yada, yada, yada. He's number 1 in scoring with 22.4 points a game. He is number 3 in rebounding. Remember, this guy's a point guard. All right? I don't know his official height, but he's under 6 foot. He's number 3 in rebounding at 8.1 rebounds per game. He is number 1 in assists with 8.7 assists per game. I don't think we need to say any more. The next closest guy has 3.6 assists a game, right? So I think he's already got that category in the bag. And he's number 1 in steals with 5.1 steals a game, with the next closest guy 2.7. Like, the numbers don't lie. Like, I don't think you need to watch another game for the year. The numbers don't lie, man.
Yeah,
Jameer Rose.
It's going to be tough to take him off the top.
Yeah, we predicted it, and you delivered, man. It's hard to do. Very hard to do.
It's hard, man, especially with the expectations being so high, and to be living up to the expectations and exceeding them is really impressive, and he's doing really well. I will say I did struggle not putting Ding Nguyen on there. I think he's right there with it, and so is Davis Mann. I think for me, a lot of my rankings was how I put, and I know it's maybe the wrong way to go about it because it's not an MVP award, but I went with kind of who's been the most valuable to their team even over the last 4 years, and that's why for me, I think a lot of people are going to be like, you're crazy for why are you putting Jace Bessie in? He's been
so valuable for so long,
and
man.
He drops, like, I understand against Madomic Valley, they keyed in on him and focused on him and shut him down, but most nights he's getting 20-plus a game, and he's the leading scorer, and for the past, 3 seasons it's been that way.
Yeah.
He has been the reason they're so consistent.
I remember watching him play as a freshman.
Yeah.
Even as a freshman.
And that's part of the deal with Mr. Maine, is it's your career.
Let's not forget that Jace Bessie was invited to Maine United, Cooper's team.
Yeah.
At one point.
With Gabe and Leo. Oh, yeah. He was a part of that
Bessie's
group,
no
dude.
joke, man.
That's why I have him in there, man. I really think he deserves to be in the conversation. And I'm with you. Davis Mann and Ding Nguyen are right on the outside looking in for me, and they'll probably break in at some point. But right now, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with Rose, Lash, McNabb, Hidalgo, and Bessie in that 5 right now. And I'll be honest, Hidalgo wasn't even on my top 5 until this week.
Wow.
The 30-point performance against Scarborough, and then to have 20-plus in the game winner against Wyndham. And as I told you in the Deering game, he didn't score many points. It was Gabe Jackson, but guess what he was doing? He was the guy defensively. Yes. He was doing it like when South Portland is playing their best, so is Manny. He has his fingerprints all over the game, and so I think for me, he's starting now with these past few performances. And again, if you're looking at the overall career, he's been one of the best consistently for 4 years. No matter
2-time state champ.
Yeah, and he's been a big role on those with JP, with Jalen, who they might have been the faces of it, but now he's the face of this senior team, and he's starting to show it with some big performances, and hitting the game winner against Wyndham, to me, really elevated his status. So, and McNabb and Lash, to me, I'll be honest, those two, that's a pick-em.
Yeah.
Like, I could put Leo at second, or I could put Lash at third. Like, I think both of them right now are a pick-em, because I think when you make the case for them, you can make a case that both their teams are much better around them than even Jameer. I know that Bryce Guittard's there, but when you look at the depth of both Chevrolet and Madomic Valley, there's depth on those two teams that allow Gabe Lash and Leo McNabb to be the players they are and do the things that they do.
Yep.
Like Ding Nguyen, for instance, and it's nothing to take away from from the other players on this team. I'm just kind of what I've seen. Like a lot of like Edward Little plays through Ding Nguyen. When I was up in Wyndham watching that game, when he went off the floor, you could tell.
100%.
And it's not like when Leo or Gabe go off the floor, you can't tell, but I just feel like there's more depth to be able to pick up the slack for some of these teams than with a Ding Nguyen or even a Jameer Rose, right? Even a Davis Mann this year, despite having Billy Burke. Like some of these guys I think have really elevated their teams to where they are right now in the standings.
For sure, and I think you hit it right with Manny Hidalgo, to be honest. I'm just kind of looking at these stats. He's number 3 in scoring with 18.1 a game. He is number 5 in rebounds from the point guard position.
That's crazy, actually, to think about.
Right? When
you look at his size, too, and having Darius Johnson on his team.
Exactly. He's got some big boys on his team. 7.1 rebounds a game.
That's nuts.
And then we look at assists per game. He is number 2. He's number 2 in assists per game with 4.2 assists per game. He's number 5 in steals per game with 2.1 steals. So he's all over the stat sheet, man. So you're right. He impacts the game and impacts his team's success.
Yeah, I really like him. I really do.
Me too. I've always loved Manny Hidalgo.
And just watching him recently, he's just been hooping, man.
Yeah.
To me, he's a big reason. Darius Johnson coming back too, but Manny playing the way he's playing, and Gabe too. Like there's a lot going on right for Millington and those guys, as we talked about today.
100%.
We want to wrap it up. Bobby, you had a good conversation with me off air about player participation and fan participation. We want to kind of to end the episode, instead of talking about games to watch, just a little conversation on what we've been observing so far this year in terms of fan attendance and player participation. You lead, and I'll kind of hop in.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly talk about a game I was at tonight. I went to go watch Sanford at TA, and great game of basketball, really competitive. Ended up being a 9-point Sanford win. Shout out to my girl Molly Puffer, freshman. We're not talking about Molly Puffer enough. Nobody's talking about Molly Puffer enough. She gave Biddeford the business. They beat Biddeford a couple games ago. She just gave TA the business. She had 20 points tonight, and she is one of the toughest kids you are going to see out there. She gets in the mix. She rebounds. She got her elbows going, had about 3-and-1s on the night. And probably the best part of her game that I love tonight, if she scored the basketball, she would find the girl that gave her the assist and give all the credit and all the love to that girl. That was huge for me. And then other girls in that game to shout out, Ava Hudson with 12, Paige 70 with 10. Coach Rossi does a great job. So it was fun to watch the Sanford girls. But what I took away from tonight, unfortunately, wasn't basketball. Both benches were, I think, 15 chairs deep and not filled, right? Player participation is down, right? All over the state, a lot of girls, a lot of varsity players, I'm not talking about fringe varsity players that we used to see, the girls or the guys that don't see varsity games. I'm talking about people that are playing 20-minute varsity games are also having to play in JV games because of participation numbers being down. And that's not acceptable. Also, the only fans that were there tonight were parents. No students. Nobody from the community. Right? Things are changing, and I had a great conversation with Eric Marston, who's the he's the former coach at TA, and he talked about 10 years, when Victoria Lux transferred over to TA, and it was just a regular Tuesday night, regular season game, and standing room only. Couldn't move, and he said it was like that for the whole season, but he remembers it being a random Tuesday, cold Tuesday, standing room only, couldn't move, and now we had, I'm seriously going to say there were about 45 people in there, 50 people in there, and on foul shots you could hear a pin drop. This is not the basketball that I saw when I first came to the U.S. The first ever game I came to in the U.S. Was in 2005. I went to watch Ellsworth versus Hamden Academy. We had to sneak into the gym. My boy Duncan Crowley snuck us in the back. We snuck into the gym. There were people peeping into the windows. It was a madhouse, right? And then I came back in 2015 after being in England again for a little while. I went to watch TA boys play. Same thing. Absolute madhouse. They had the ESPN Sports Center thing going on. It was amazing. And then every year, fans are leaving the games. Players are leaving the game, and it has to be addressed. It's got to be addressed.
I don't know, because I can't really speak on player participation because I'm not a coach, so I don't really know. I don't know numbers like that, but I can speak on the fans thing in it, because I do think one thing we talked about, I believe that streaming is a huge reason for this.
For sure.
And especially with Thornton Academy, they have TATV, I believe is what it's called. And for instance, Cole Purvis, who does voice, he's one of the voices for HOU up here. When you saw him goes to Syracuse, he was home and he was broadcasting that. They do you can go right on YouTube and watch any Thornton Academy JV game,
for
varsity
free.
Game for free. You go on to HOU.live if you pay $10. You can watch Deering, Chevrolet games, all Old Orchard Beach, all the way up north too. Steve
With
Carmichael
amazing commentary.
Absolutely, yeah. Shout out Steve Carmichael.
Shout out to you, Taylor Maddox.
Right. But no, in all seriousness though, like that to me has also been a big shift in why people aren't going out to the games. Munzing Media, who's covered Gardner for so long, right? Like, there are so many different platforms now and ways to ingest the media that is being put out for high school basketball, and so many ways to watch games that I do wonder if the streaming part is impacting people's attendance at these games. I know for HOU broadcasting the South Portland and Deering game, it was busy. There was a lot of students there for Deering, but there was no students from SoPo.
Yeah.
All parents on one side, and the other side of the stands were a little but it wasn't, like you pointed out, it might have been even when I was in high school in 2007 to 11, we used to travel to Thornton Academy. We would fill our stand section with like 30, 45 kids for any away game that was close. And the only teams that I really see do that, I mean, Wyndham has no problem filling their stand. Every time I've seen Wyndham, because when Wyndham came down to play Cheverus, packed gym. When Gorham, for instance, came down to play Cheverus this past weekend that I saw, and Gorham's kind of having a down year, pretty packed gym.
Yes.
So there's certain communities, I think, who really do still pack the gym, but you're right. I have noticed, even here in Portland especially, unless it's during Portland, you don't really get much for a Portland versus someone unless they're traveling
at the Expo.
I know.
Like,
Portland Deering was tonight. I was going to stop by, but caught a little busy because we had to come in here and record. And I should have gone by to check the crowd to see how it was. But usually that one's fine. Portland Deering's right. Portland Cheverus and the inner city ones are fine. But sometimes when you get those Bonnie Eagle games, it dwindles. And I'm wondering what's going on with the fan participation too. I feel like a lot of it has to do with streaming because people do have access to it. But at the same time, I don't know why it's happening. I just think too, since COVID anyway, and I hate to even go back to there with it, but it's just like it feels like more and more people have been less inclined to go out and now not everybody, like for instance myself after COVID, I found myself being more outgoing.
100%.
I don't want to be locked. I want to be outside, and when I had that taken away, it was a reality check that, man, this is why I got to continue to go out and experience things. But for some people, I think they've been maybe drawn into, well, it is easier just to stay in and stream a game. If I can do it for free, why would I drive out in the 16-degree Maine weather right now with it blowing, and when I could sit in the comforts of my home, have a nice cup of cocoa, settle in with the dog and the husband or the wife, and just relax and watch, the local team play. Maybe that's it. But I've noticed it a little bit too, and I don't know what it is. I don't think it's happening up in like the northern regions. I really don't, because I see Gardner games on Muncie Media and they're pretty packed. So I wonder if it's like a southern Maine thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It has been happening down here for a little while.
I hope we get feedback on this conversation too, because again, I've only been to so many gyms this year.
Of course.
And again, the gym the Wyndham has no problem.
Yeah,
Wyndham's juiced every night, dude. It's crazy.
I wonder if it's player and program outreach, our players and the programs going out into the community and doing things, and you know what I mean, and
that's an interesting
and packing bags
too.
at the grocery store, and you know what I mean, doing car washes in the summer, like all of that stuff. And their program, is your program ingrained in the community like it is in Wyndham? I know how much
like
stuff,
the Gorhams, right?
Gorham too, they do a good job. They really do. And I don't know, man. There is an answer to this question that I don't have, but I do want to ask the question.
Yeah, I want to start the conversation too.
For sure.
And I'm definitely going to pay attention to numbers now, much more than I have before, because it does seem, especially on the girls' side.
On the girls' side of participation numbers are way.
That's what I've heard, and I've heard that for a couple years now.
Yeah, volleyball is up there.
Do you think that's playing? Is volleyball? I thought volleyball was a fall sport.
No, it is. But I'm just saying in general, as you talk about, volleyball is up. But what happens? What do you do in the winter? You play club volleyball. Okay,
see, and that's what I wonder, if more people are just leaving basketball.
People are going, and I talking to Eric Marston tonight, and we talked about within 10 years, is AAU club, is that going to take over? Look what's happening in hockey. They're having to combine towns to form teams. Is that going to be the state of basketball in 10 years?
It's getting crazy with hockey too.
Hockey,
insane. you have Mount Ararat, Morris, Lisbon, who have the Portland team is like 5 teams. It's funny, I was talking to Michael Hoffer. Michael Hoffer's like, we just call them the Beacons.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it's like 6 teams.
But then it becomes an AAU club team.
At that point, yeah.
Right. And hometown pride kind of goes out the window.
I'm interested, man. And hopefully, basketball in Maine, I think, it might come in cycles, and I hope that's what it is. But it's definitely something I think that hopefully, we start to see the trend change, and especially on the girls' side, we get to see the participation come back, and hopefully fans get out and continue to support more local.
Because it's great for me, it's whatever's good for the players.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The fan experience is better when there are more fans there. It's like going to a bar.
But so is it for the players, man.
You go to a bar and nobody's there. It's like, all right, we got to get out of here, man.
Well, but it's better for the players, too. Like, to play in that atmosphere, man. Like, to be involved in a game like that. Like, for instance, at Portland High School when I played soccer, had one of the best soccer crowds because we were so good. And I used to always remember, like, especially for the state game, there was like 3,200 people there. It was crazy to see that many people out for, to watch that many people watching you. And I just think, I hope more and more kids have that opportunity, and I hope that more and more communities continue to go support these kids. And if there's any message that they get out of this conversation, it's go to the games. Don't just watch them. Yeah, if you don't want to leave the house every once in a while, but some nights just get out of the house. It's high school football, or it's high school basketball season. Like, if I didn't have so many damn Maine Celtics games to cover this month, I would be at every game in every gym usually on a Thursday or a Saturday. I mean, Saturday I was at Cheverus watching Gorham. Tuesday I was down in Old Orchard Beach watching the Trape game. Guys, go watch it. By the way, Trape Old Orchard Beach was a great crowd for a Class C game.
That's what I like.
Really
to hear,
great.
Man.
I mean,
That's
no, it was. There was a great contingency of Trape families and people and students there that came up from Kittery to watch, but the Old Orchard Beach, there was a little student section, and it was great because Class C, you never know what you're going to get, but to see Old Orchard Beach support its athletes like that was great, and I just hope that there's more communities out there, and hopefully it's just us in Southern Maine and the gyms we're going into that are having the issue and not
the whole state. Get behind your teams, get behind your kids.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it. Episode 6 of the Starting Five is a wrap. We'll catch you guys next week. For Robbie Davids, I'm Taylor Mannix. Thanks for listening to the Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast, brought to you by Town & Country Federal Credit Union.